So a quick hop on the metro has brought me up to St. Stephen's Basilica. But now I'm gonna go climb this hill, so let's get climbing. It is my third and final day here in Budapest. Obviously a late start today after the pub crawl last night. Straddling the banks of the Danube River, Budapest has quickly rocketed to the top of many people's bucket lists, and it's easy to see why. With over 1,000 years of history and culture, thermal hot springs, underrated cuisine, some of the best nightlife in Europe, while also being extremely affordable, Budapest offers something for every type of traveler. I decided to come visit for myself and see if it lives up to the hype. Good morning guys and welcome to Budapest. If you watched our last video, you would have seen that Aleesha and I were hanging out in Venice. So after Venice, we flew up to Amsterdam for a couple days to meet up with our friends Zach and Izzy, who are also doing their own little Euro trip. That was a really great time, but unfortunately Aleesha had to get back to work. I still have another week though before I start my new job, so I'm going to be spending the next 4 days here in Budapest before finishing off with a couple days in Vienna. So now that you guys are all caught up, let's get exploring Budapest. Alright guys, so I spent this morning at the Széchenyi thermal baths, and I'll have a whole separate video about that and some of the other bathhouses here in Budapest. So if you're thinking about checking out a bathhouse while you're here, be sure to go check out that video. However, in the same park, if you walk a couple minutes, you'll find this castle behind me here, which is the Vajdahunyad Castle. I'm gonna put it down there with the spelling. This castle dates from 1896. It also serves as a museum, so you can go inside and take a look around if you want. I'm just gonna admire from the outside and enjoy the beautiful weather today. So a quick hop on the metro has brought me up to St. Stephen's Basilica, which is the largest church in Budapest and the third largest in Hungary overall. It took over 50 years to complete. They started around 1850 and was completed in 1905. And it's actually named after King Stephen, who was the first king of Hungary. Tickets are available for both the main church as well as to climb the dome for a view of Budapest. I chose to just visit the church, which only cost £2.50. Built in the neoclassical style, the dome stands an impressive 98 meters tall. The dome actually collapsed during construction in 1868, and the entire project had to be restarted. But I'd say the final work was worth it in the end. After admiring the church, it was time for me to go grab some lunch. I just finished up lunch at the Karavan street food market. It's right around the corner from my hostel. It was so good. The fried chicken sandwich I got was like made completely fresh. It only cost me £4, so my wallet is very happy after coming from Amsterdam, which was so expensive. But right around the corner from there as well is my next stop, which is the Dohany Street Synagogue. Also known as the Great Synagogue, the structure was built between 1854 and 1859 and is the largest synagogue in Europe and the second largest in the world, only after the Great Synagogue in Jerusalem. Prior to World War II, Budapest had a thriving Jewish population, but of course this all changed when the Germans invaded. The Hungarian Jewish population suffered greatly at the hands of the Nazis, and the synagogue didn't escape their wrath either, suffering extensive damage from bombing. Fortunately, following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the building was restored and today has a capacity for almost 3,000 worshippers. The complex also features a memorial to the heroes of the Hungarian resistance and those who lost their lives during the Holocaust. Just finished up in the synagogue. It was very impressive, also very moving. You know, they had a lot of displays talking about the Holocaust and just the impact that that had on Budapest Jewish community. It was really well laid out though, and they also had guides in about 6 or 7 different languages. So literally you could just walk into the synagogue and there'd be a tour guide there to kind of give you a history of the synagogue and the museum and all the things attached to it. So really well done. Definitely check it out when you're here in Budapest. It's such an important part of this city's history. Morning guys, day 2 here in Budapest. So last night the hostel was running a social event, which they do every night, and I met up with a few people. We went to one of the famous ruin bars here in Budapest, and I'm actually doing a full like ruin pub crawl tonight, so that was like a good preview of what I can expect. This morning I am at the Central Market Hall, which has been kind of the center of commerce here in Budapest since 1897. I'm gonna see if I can find myself a little bit of breakfast and then continue on with my day. After wandering the market, I tucked into some kolbász, basically just sausages in a bread cone, which honestly sounds like the perfect breakfast to me. After breakfast, I headed across the river to finally explore the Buda side of the city. Just over the river from the central market hall is my next stop, which is the Gellert Hill. So in addition to providing a great lookout over the city, there's also a cave church built into the side of the hill. Haven't seen any cave churches since I was in Turkey, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how this one compares. The church was opened in 1931 by the Pauline monks, and prior to that it was supposedly the home of a hermit monk who used the thermal waters to heal the sick. In 1951, as part of the communist government's crackdown on religion, the cave was sealed off and the monks were in prison. Fortunately, it was reopened following the collapse of the Soviet Union, and today welcomes visitors from all over the world. Alright, well, the church was pretty neat. I always love a good cave church. It was only 750 Hungarian florins, which is less than £2 to go in, and you get a free audio guide with it, so definitely recommend it if you are in Budapest. But now I'm gonna go climb this hill, so let's get climbing. Well, it was quite the hike, but I made it to the top, which is the good news. The bad news is that it appears that it is closed off. They're renovating some of the statues up there. So that was a bit of a letdown after climbing all the way up, but there's a couple different lookout points and the views are still spectacular, so not the end of the world. All right, well, after that hike, I think I've earned myself a trip to the thermal baths again. So right at the base of Gellert Hill, you can find the Gellert thermal bath. So I'm gonna go spend the afternoon relaxing and pampering myself. If you want to see kind of a full review of the Gellert baths, be sure to check out my Budapest bathhouse video comparing that to the other bathhouses here in Budapest. After some time at the baths, I headed up to the Terror Museum. Opened in 2002, it documents the atrocities committed against the Hungarian population under both the Nazi and communist regimes. The museum is housed in the former Arrow Cross Party headquarters, who collaborated with the Nazis during World War II. While showcasing all of the horrible things that happened during this period, the museum's aim is also to remind those visiting that the sacrifices were not in vain, as today Hungary is a free and independent country. I still had my ruin bar tour later tonight, so I decided to head back to the hostel and freshen up before that. Alright guys, so I'm heading out to my ruin pub crawl now, and basically what a ruin bar is they are old abandoned buildings that have been converted into bars basically, so nothing's really been done to them. They've just thrown furniture, graffiti, random antiques in there and made it into really cool, unique bars, so I can't wait to go check them out. I booked this experience through Airbnb, and after meeting up with our guide Lena, we headed out to take in Budapest's famous nightlife. Many of the ruin bars are rather unassuming from the outside, and without the tour I definitely would have walked past most of them. One that can't be missed though is Synagogue, without a doubt the most famous ruin bar in Budapest. I've never experienced a place like this in my life, and it is truly one of a kind. We also hit a rooftop patio for some amazing views of the city before finishing off at Instant Focus, the largest nightclub in Budapest with 7 floors. Good afternoon guys, it is my third and final day here in Budapest. Obviously a late start today after the pub crawl last night, which was a pretty cool experience. So Lena, our guide, also gave us a bit of a walking history tour as we were going through the pubs as well, so that was a pretty cool experience. There was only 2 of us on the tour. I think it would have been a little bit funner with, you know, a bigger group and whatnot, but I mean, considering I'm starting my day at like 1 o'clock, it couldn't have been that bad. Still have a few of the main sites to check off the list today, so I'm going to start by heading up to Buda Castle, so let's get going. The castle itself feels like its own mini city. It was the seat of Hungarian royalty since 1265, and today it houses the National Gallery and Budapest History Museum. The castle complex is massive, covering an area of 4.73 square kilometers. In 2019, it also officially became the residence of the Hungarian Prime Minister. It's another hot one here today in Budapest, but thankfully, as you're walking through the castle complex, you'll see a bunch of taps where you can fill up your water bottle. Despite what some people might think, the water in Budapest is safe to drink. It all comes from the natural springs below the city, so rest assured you're not going to get sick from it. Alright, so as I've wandered through the castle and now the castle district, I've come on my next stop, which is Fisherman's Bastion. This is named after the Fisherman's Guild that used to kind of look after this part of the city, and it's this beautiful fairy tale like structure that gives you great views of the city. It is free to enter. I'm going to go take a look around and see what kind of views I can get. Well, the views at Fisherman's Bastion did not disappoint. I actually kind of wish I had gone up there for sunset because it would have been great, but I assume it would have been even busier than it already was. I did get a good look though at the Hungarian Parliament building, but I haven't really seen it up close yet, and I feel like you can't appreciate it until you get up close. So I'm gonna head down to the bank of the river, get a couple photos, and then that's probably gonna wrap up my time here in Budapest. Probably the most impressive structure in Budapest, and maybe all of Hungary. Pictures and videos simply don't do the size of this place justice. At 18,000 square meters and with nearly 700 rooms, it's been a feature of Budapest riverfront since 1902. Hope you guys enjoyed this little tour around Budapest. If you're new around here, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Thank you again guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next trip.